Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year! Thanks for tuning into Sin's Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, it is time for my January wrap-up. Remember, I had a 20-book goal, which was insane. The first person to say it was insane. But you know what? I got close. I was able to read 18 books this month. And I'm so proud of myself. I didn't think I was gonna make it to like 12, honestly, but I did it. So yay! Woo! Go me! I got close. So hopefully this wrap-up video is going to be a little bit shorter because at least 5 of them were all of the same series. And what were they? They were the Wayward Children series, books 7 to the newest one, 11. Amazing. So where the Drowned Girls Grow, Adrift in Currents and Clear, Misladen Parts Half Known, and then the newest one, Through Gates of Garnet and Gold, which was amazing. I think what I love most about this series is every other book, so the even numbers. All the even numbers are like a prequel, or they are about a particular character, basically, and their origins. And we get to see their world, we get to go into their world and see what it's all about, But then the odd numbers continue the overall plot points, which do in a way connect to the prequel ones, but more so in the fact this character from this book. So their origin, stuff that the other characters around them don't know. So it's really, really interesting, and they're so moving. It's no wonder that this is an award-winning series. They're beautiful. They are simply beautiful and moving, and they deal with a lot of heavy themes, They deal with Naja, who is kind of like an amputee. She was born with a stump, and she's quite okay with her stump. She doesn't even feel bad about it. It's not until her foster parents, who do love her, the father, I will say. The father, I think, loves her more than the mother ever did. The mother, it seemed just kind of like for show. But you can tell that the father generally, he cares about her. And the two parents clash a lot in that novel. Where the Drowned Girls Go. Yeah? Yeah. That one's about... No, Adrift in Currents Clear. That one's the one about Naja. The other one is about Cora. They're both considered drowned girls, right? Sumi is amazing. And all of her crazy, chaotic wisdom, beauty. She's like the smartest one. She died, she got back to life, and now she's the second leader next to Cade, who's equally brilliant and starting to take over the school, right? And then you have Christopher, who wants to go back to the land of Mariposa to be with his skeleton bride. You have such really interesting characters, and they're all very well written, and they're all very distinct, and they all, you become emotionally invested in them. In every single book. Antsy, oh god, Antsy. I love the dedication where before the story even goes on, she's like, "Dear reader, Antsy runs. She gets away." And I'm just like, oh my god, this is going to be one of those books. This is going to be one of those books. And it's just well done. It's so well done. It's so well written. They're powerful. And they're so short and sweet, These are novellas. You could read each of them in a day. At most, So, they really were just beautiful and emotional. And I don't even know what to do with myself after reading book 11. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm just like, how am I supposed to move on from this? How? I need another book. I love Shannon McGuire. I think Shannon McGuire is a great author. Great writer, great storyteller, impactful, concise, emotive. They are absolutely amazing. And that's all I have to say on that matter. So up next on the list is The Last Vampire by Romina Garber. I did have the pleasure of meeting Romina. And this is supposed to be like a Jane Austen-inspired contemporary novel, right? In my opinion, though, because I'm more of a Bronte girl, I don't know what it is. I love watching movies based on Jane Austen's work. I love watching those movies. But when it comes to actually reading the work, I struggle with her writing style for some reason. I don't know, it's been a while since I've actually picked up a book to try to read. But back when I was like going through my phase in high school, I'm going to read all the classics. I could not get through one. Oliver Twist, read that. Bronte, oh, I love Bronte. Read those. Middlemarch, read that one, although, to be fair, I had to read that one for class. But I ended up really enjoying it, which was a shock to myself. I saw the book in class, I'm like, oh God. And then I'm like, oh no, I like this. Jane Eyre, there are some classics I like, but there's just something about Jane Austen that when I try to read them, I get bored. But when I watch any sort of adaptation, I'm like in love, and I'm like, I need to try to reread Austen again because I love the story she has written. Clearly, if it's an adaptation, I snatch that shit up. Retelling, snatch it up. So this book, in my opinion, is Jane Austen meets Bronte. So you've got the Jane Austen romance, but it has a Bronte atmosphere. So I really, really like that because your two main characters, they act very much like Eliza and Mr. Darcy. So, very much so. The chemistry is there. It's very much a Pride and Prejudice kind of vibe going on. It doesn't help that his name is William Pride. That doesn't help, that just makes it worse. It's like, oh yeah, totally. He's so obnoxious. He really is. He's very much a Mr. Darcy. So, it's just, well, it was well written, it takes place in a boarding school, in the northeast, was it? I didn't write that part down in my notes, but boarding school, and he's the last vampire, or so he thinks. The romance in there is a little steamy. It is a little bit it borders on new adult. I will say that. It borders on new adult, but it is still appropriate for young adult audiences. 14 minimum, I would say. But again, they see worse on TV, so whatever. I think the storytelling is really, really well done. I like the dual POVs that we get here going between the characters. I like the dynamic she has with her friend Salma. And I like the struggle, I like the struggle that she kind of goes through with finding herself and forging her own identity in this novel. And I really did like the romance that went on between the two characters, The play on vampire lore was also really well done. I will say that there is a lag in the pacing at times. I will say that. But because I was so captivated by the story and the characters, it didn't really bother me. But upon reflection, it's something that I do have to note. Yes, there are moments in the pacing where it lagged a little too much, but I still overall liked the story and enjoyed it quite a lot, actually. And it helps that, you know, the author is a sweetheart, too, you know. So the next one is a reread, The Obsidian Blade. I read this book like a decade ago. I think longer. I think it was in 2012. Ooh. Because it deals with time travel. And it's, you know, a young adult book. Although I think when I first bought it, it was in the kids section. Because he's like 11. But it's really trippy. So it's more suited for young adults. I'm glad it has been recoded by the publisher. It's trippy. So I'm rereading it because my goal is to finish every series that I've started. Never-ending task, right? I just want to finish the series I've started before I start new series outside of book clubs, right? Before I start a new series, right? And I was looking at the trilogy, because I own this trilogy, the Collected Discos, and I could not for the life of me remember how it ended. Like, I remembered bits and pieces, and I remembered that it did have a time travel element, and I remembered the disc in the sky, or portals, right? But I couldn't remember anything else, to tell you the truth. Couldn't remember a single bit, and I'm like, well, I can't finish the rest of the series without reading this one. So we're gonna read it. So I read it. It was okay, you know? I think it's just a little too trippy. I do like the plot, though. I think it is really interesting. It's not really hard to follow, but it does have a lot of unanswered questions. I'm okay with that because I know it's a trilogy. So I know, like, okay, we're raising a lot of these questions. Some of them are answered in this book, but I know a lot of them are not going to be answered because it's a time travel novel. You know, it's time travel. You don't expect everything to be answered because then how are you going to continue the series, you know? So it is a time travel novel, and I already know that a lot of my questions are going to be answered if in book 2 and if not in book 3. Because right now, Pete Hotman, he's, you know, setting up the stage following Tucker Faye and Lalia, right? I understand it, but it still did, you know, leave me like, okay, what? Like a little confused at times, you know, just a little bit. Not a lot to the point that I hated the book, but enough that I'm just like, and not enough, it didn't bother me enough that it turned me off from reading the rest of the books. No, if anything, it made me a little bit more eager to have these questions answered. Be like, I need these questions answered. I think it seems inconsistent, you know? Like, it seems inconsistent plot-wise with, like, the time traveling and the characterization and dynamics. So I'm hoping with book 2, a lot of my questions will be answered, so then it doesn't feel like plot points are missing. But it was wild. It was a wild, let me tell you, wild book. Follow that up with Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher. So this was an arc that was given to me. Yes, I'm only now just reading it. I get a lot of arcs. I'm doing my best, okay? I am doing my best. So, I like this book because it's not really a retelling of Robin Hood. In fact, it's like a continuation. It follows Mariel, who is the granddaughter of Robin Hood. And I think what's really good is before the 16th century, the tale of Robin Hood already existed, right? 16th century is just when the Catholic Church decided to add Maid Marian in there because it was queer. There has been a lot of discussion about the queerness of the original Robin Hood tale, right? I would actually like to see that adapted properly. But it became popularized in the 16th century with the addition of that romantic aspect of it with Maid Marian. And that's the story that everyone really knows, you know, unless you actually like do a deep dive into the history of Robin Hood. Your historians are even saying like, no, there's definitely a queer aspect to this and why they're called the Merry Men and why they're living in seclusion in the forest. And he wasn't like always like a great guy. He was just like, yeah, I'll get your money back for you for a cut. Like he was like kind of like a shady anti-hero, right? I think that's really interesting, you know? He wasn't just like totally like, yes, I will defeat Nottingham and I will totally avenge the rights of the poor. Nah, he was kind of a sleaze, and he's like, yeah, I'll get your money back, but I'm gonna take my cut first. You know? So he never like would fully return all the money to the people. But yes, there is a discussion of the queerness in the original Tale of Robin Hood. And I like that Lex Crusher kind of like went with that, you know? They really definitely went with the queer aspect of the story. Because even in this one, he marries Maid Marian. But I forget who he runs off with. Maid Marian kind of like leaves because she's like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of this lifestyle. It's not really suited for me. So she leaves. And Robin Hood's one of his merry men, one of the popular ones too, I can't remember which one though, leaves as well. And who does Robin Hood go after? He goes after the merry men. And they ride off into the sunset together and decide, we're going to leave the scoundrel life behind and just travel the world together. They're honeymooning it. It's quite cute. So with this one, Mariel and Clem are your queer couple, right? Clem is a healer. She lives in the forest. She will heal anyone who comes to her, whether they're a merry man or whether they're work for Nottingham, right? She has ethics. She's like, I don't care where people come from. I'm still going to take care of you. Mariel very much suffers from feeling abandoned by her mother, and a toxic relationship with her father Jack, who is Robin Hood's son-in-law, and she always feels inadequate. She always feels like nothing she does is good enough for him, and he doesn't really lift her up. All he does is kind of like complain and basically say like she's not good enough. So she's constantly trying to prove herself to her father. Her mother has kind of abandoned her, so you think, you know. Turns out Jack is kind of both her parents they suck. When you meet her mom, you're just like, wow, you suck. Like, your daughter's better off without both of you, right? And she realizes that as well near the end. I like their dynamic because Mariel's very much a grumpy sunshine, and Clem is very much a sunshine. Like, woo, she's cute, she's adorable, she's funny. And their dynamic is really, really wholesome. I think my issue is the pacing. The pacing is inconsistent for me. While I like the character dynamics and I do think the story is really interesting, I think the pacing and it disrupts the plot, you know? It just lags and it drags it on. And mind you, I was listening to the audiobook at times 2 speed, and even then it felt like it was dragging. I had the physical book. I struggled to get into it, and I'm thinking like maybe it's just reader's fatigue, and it might be. I'm like hella tired right now. But so I audiobooked it, and even the audiobook, it just felt very long. It felt too long, and the way the plot developed, it didn't feel fluid to me. I was just like, okay, well, wait a second. How did we get to this going on right now? You know? It felt disjointed, I should say. It felt disjointed. And that's my biggest grievance with this book. That it just didn't flow as well as I wanted it to flow, because that pacing just made it feel disjointed. And I think that there were plot points that should have been developed more to make it feel more consistent, that were kind of just like, oh, it's a mention. It's like, no, this is actually connected to a really big plot point that you have, that you're trying to develop. So please just build more on that, not this inconsequential detail. You know what I mean? It felt inconsistent to me. It felt lagging in parts, and it felt a little bit too long. But I did like the dynamic between Mariel and Clem, and I do like the characterization and the character development, especially for Mariel. So those were really the saving graces, honestly. All right. I followed that up with my Fantasy Fanatics book club pick, which was the Lord of the Rings trilogy, all 3 books. All 3 of them. It's been a while since I've read them. My husband likes to read them every year. And to be cool like Christopher Lee. That's a direct quote. I even got his new matching Lord of the Rings wedding rings for Valentine's Day. The ones from Enzo, the Arwen and Aragorn ones, yeah, I got those for us because we're nerds. In any case, it's been probably over a decade since I've last read these books. Like, man, it's been a while. I forgot a lot. I forgot so much. The first chapter of Fellowship is very long. There is a lot of information that's going on there. A lot of information that, I mean, in the time period of when it was written was probably necessary, but nowadays I'm just like, I'm not really feeling it. So I appreciate it for what it was. I'm trying to look at it from like, the time period in which it was written. They're very much, fantasies of that time period were very much info dumping. That's just the time. That's just how people were like taught to write. Writing has changed so much since 1936. Like, writing has changed a lot. A lot. And I'm trying not to judge it so much from my perspective of it now, and so much as I like the story. I do. I think really my only issue is that first chapter of the entire trilogy. Actually, that's not true. I appreciate all the detail, and that's the thing, like, I appreciate all the detail that is given to me. I just think it could have been given to me slowly, and also I don't need to know everything about the Baggins' whole family lineage and line. The really only interesting bit to me is his parents died. He has the same birthday as Bilbo, because they're supposed to be mirror characters of each other, basically, right? That, to me, is the only real important information. The whole family tree was a lot of information, and some of it didn't really matter when you finish reading the whole series. It, doesn't wholly matter. The passage of time, wow, I forgot how much time passed between, again, I've seen the movies more recently than I've read the books. Extended cuts only. Don't worry. I'm not a heathen. I mean, I am a heathen. You know what I mean. But the passage of time was wild. I was like, oh my god, like a decade is passing, right? The fact that Arwen is basically non-existent in the books. She's like non-existent. She's there. She exists. She's a love interest for Aragorn, but she's like not there. Not as much as she is in the movies, and I forgot that detail as well. I do like that Peter Jackson did with her character, but it's not as prevalent. And here's my issue. Number 2. Two Towers. The 2 of the trilogy, surprise, surprise, if you heard my trilogy tap theory. My issue is it feels like 2 separate books. Because first you're following Aragorn, and then you're following Frodo and Sam. And it feels like 2 separate books, I think I like the way the movie does it better because it goes back and forth between them. It just doesn't split their perspectives. And I think if the book had been written that way, like, here's what's happening right now, and then here's what's happening right now with Frodo, and then back and forth, I don't think it would have felt like 2 separate books, right? Because it is, I think it's here, I'm looking at them on my shelf right now. That's Return of the King. That one's Hobbit. It was the shortest audiobook. I will say that. But I'm like, So, it feels like the longest. Because it feels like two separate books. I still liked it. I still enjoyed it. And then book 3, like, fuck. I get to the part where they destroy the ring and I'm like, I still have hours to go with this audiobook. Like, what happens next? I completely forgot everything afterwards. The whole everything. Especially the return to the Shire is not pleasant. Not at all. And then, Sauron? I always get Sauron and Saruman. Saruman. Yeah, Saruman. And Wormtail are in the Shire. And, again, the movies are imprinted. I'm like, oh, they didn't die at Isengard. They die in the Shire. Because he's such a petty wizard. He's lost all his power. Evil doesn't pay. And it's so funny. Because I'm like, well, fuck. I forgot everything in the Shire and the battle between the hobbits. And I was just like, wow, these hobbits, they just can't catch a break. They just had to deal with all the shit outside the Shire, hoping for a nice, safe, warm welcome. Like, nope. Even innocence is tarnished and affected by the war, which I think is what Tolkien was really getting at. Like, war impacts everyone. No one is safe. Virtue is rewarded, right? So it really was a really nice chance to reread them and revisit them because, again, it's been years. I forgot so much. So much. I followed that up with Tidespeaker. So this was an arc that was given to me, and it also won the Book of the Month title on my website. That's okay. I wanted more from it because the book is marketed as with a romance aspect to it, and you see it when you're reading it. It's there. It's simmering, but nothing comes of it. I am happy that Corinth. I'm happy that she chooses herself. But I still think, here, you can either do these two things. She can either just not have the romantic aspect in the book at all. It didn't need it. If you're not going to do anything with it, and then building that slow burn tension in the story and having it go nowhere is disappointing as a reader. Like, I'm expecting it to go somewhere, right? Especially because it is mentioned in the blurb. I think the story would have just been so much better without that, right? Now, if you're going to have it in there, fine. Have them have their romantic aspect, right? Have them develop it. Have their falling out. You can still have her choosing herself, but he could have followed her, He could have chosen her and her plan to get her people, because she's a floodmouth. The people with elemental powers, floodmouths, mudmouths, gustmouths, and firemouths or flamemouths. People with control over the elements, they can talk to the elements, are placed into positions of servitude because back ages in the book, they abused their power, people rose up, like, nah, brought them down, and then they were then placed into a position of servitude, right? Lesson learned. But they're pretty much abused now, and now they want equality. It's like they don't want to be in power, they just want to be treated as equals. They want to be respected, right? So that's their goal, and that's what she wants. So he could have chosen that with her. He could have followed her off, like his sister did. His sister, who was in love with the firemouth, that worked for them, she chose her. She gave up everything, and she's like, no, I believe in your cause, so I'm going to follow you. He's like, I can still find a position for you. Like, come on, dude. Like, no. I'm glad she chooses herself, but I think that having this tension, romantic tension in the story, and then doing nothing with it was kind of a letdown. Because they don't even have, like, a proper, like, they never properly got together, so they don't have a proper breakup. It's just It's a one kiss. They have one kiss. And they don't even become proper friends either. You know, so it's really disappointing to see that. It was a little disappointing. A lot, actually. So, it's okay. Okay. I followed that up with Captain of Fates by Catherine Weber. This is the 4th book in the Twin Crown series. I don't think you can get the book in the States outside of an ebook right now. I bought the Waterstones exclusive edition because I had all the Waterstones versions of the Twin Crown series. And it was pretty. So this one's a standalone. But you cannot read it out of order. You can't just be like, oh, it's a standalone, I'll read it. Like, no. You will spoil the main plot of the Twin Crowns trilogy if you do. This one follows fan favorite character Marino. And I really liked it because in the trilogy, he seems kind of like a not serious character. You know, he's a sailor. You know, kind of think like he wants to be like Jack Sparrow, but he's not. Kind of thing. And he's charming. He's charismatic. He seems like not serious about anything, but he's actually really deep. You get to see that he's not just all fun and games. He's like very deep, you know. The sea is his home. His ship is his home. He doesn't like being land-bound. He likes to explore, and his sister is obsessed with finding him a match. And he's like, I don't need a match. Like, I'm happy. She's like, no, you're not. You can't be happy. You don't have a partner. Which, that was the most annoying thing for me. I'm like, Celeste, come on. Get over yourself, right? Everyone's obsessed with finding him a partner. And I'm like, get over it. Like, not everyone needs a partner to be happy and be fulfilled. Right? And it was just really, really entertaining. It was really frustrating to see his sister act like that because I thought so much more of her from the previous books. But now you get to see Marino really come into himself in this book. And you get to see him fall in love, not just with the mermaid, but with the baker girl, who is amazing and such a sweetheart. And another thing you also get to see is it also has the lore of the land that he gets trapped on, that the mermaids are also trapped. So Solvara is like an island nation, and there's a ring, right, around Solvara that the mermaids are trapped in. And they are trapped and cursed to kill anyone who tries to leave the island. Because there is a twist on the tale of the Little Mermaid in this book. Little Mermaid gave up her legs, fell in love with the king, blah, blah, blah. They end up together to have a kid, blah, 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 right? She decides to go back to the ocean because she misses her sisters. He kills her. Everyone's cursed now. So Marino's like, well, I'm here to try to find something, a potion to save my sister. Because she gets sick of her own doing. And he gets trapped. Falls in love with the mermaid, bigger girl. It's great. I loved it. It was such a fast read too. I didn't want to put it down. I love the story. I love the characterization. I like that it's 3 POVs, Kira, Lana, and Marina. It was just so well done. And I'm excited to read the next one, which follows Prince Alaric. Or King Ulrich of that wintry kingdom, King of Beasts. I'm so excited. I just got it in the mail, so I'm really excited to hopefully read it sometime soon. Cut me some slack, okay? Next up is The Last Dragon of Mars. So this is a book I read to my son every night. It's really cool, actually. Space dragons! So every planet and every moon in the solar system has a dragon avatar. The Earth dragon, Gaia, is the reason life exists on Earth. She gave up her essence to create life and humanity on Earth, and it's really cool. So, humans being humans, when they found out that, they're like, well, we're going to go to Mars. And they tried to convince Mars to sacrifice himself to bring life on Mars. And the Mars dragon, Ares, is like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not killing myself for you people. Literally. So what happens? The Luna Moon teams up with Phobos and Deimos, the 2 moon dragons, and they kill him. And so now, with his last dying breath, what did he do? He cursed Mars. Cursed it. But, you know, people still live on Mars now. They tried their best. They're like, well, he's dead, so we can now live on Mars. And then they found out it was cursed. Like, everything on the planet Mars tries to kill them. There are sandstorms. There are creatures on Mars that try to kill them. They are not safe. Enter Lunar Jones. He's a scavenger. Kid's 13. What does he do? He scavenge. He looks for old Mars tech so that he can take it and sell it and, take care of all the kids at the orphanage, because he's like dad there. He takes care of all the kids at the orphanage, right? He stumbles into a bunker. What is in this bunker? A dragon. That decides to mark him as his dragoon, his familiar, basically. And it's really, really fun. I really, really enjoyed the novel. My son really enjoyed the novel. It was unique. It was interesting. It was fast-paced. It has really good characters. Proctor, Roddy, Poppy, Lunar Jones, Dread, because that's the name of the dragon. They're all so well done. And I love the way the plot developed. It was unsuspecting. I didn't expect it at all. Like, what was going to happen. I was like, what? There were some things I did see coming, but then there were some things I did not see coming. And then you also get to meet the dragons of Ganymede, Io, Europa, Jupiter. Yeah. You get to meet all those dragons soon. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. So I followed that up with my book club pick, which was Violet Thistleway Is Not a Villain Anymore. That was amazing. No notes. Everyone needs to read it. It was such a fun, interesting novel. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved every stinking minute of that book. It was funny. It was cozy. It was romantic. It was fantastical. It follows Violet, who was the Thorn Witch, and she doesn't want to be the Thorn Witch anymore. She wants to be a good guy. So what does she do? When her adopted father, Guy Shadowfade, dies, she decides to go to the town of Dragonrest that lived beneath his shadow to try to make something of her future and make something more. And she's so beautiful, like inside and out. Her personality, her dynamic with Nathaniel is so charming. Like, he's like the gruff guy. He runs an apothecary. He feels responsible for his parents' death and his choices to become an alchemist. He feels let his family down, so now he's like giving up that because he's disillusioned, because a lot of the things he did it so that he could change apothecary, right? And make better herbs and supplements. And instead, much of his was turned into the crucible and used as weapons. And he's like, that's not why I wanted to do this. So he's very disillusioned. He has his own baggage, right? The townspeople are hilarious. I loved the writing. I love the chalkboard signs that break up the chapters, because it's like witty banter between the apothecary and her flower shop. It's just funny. Absolutely love this book. I think everyone needs to read it. It's 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. I followed that up with Bane of Asgard by Cinda Williams Chima. Okay, this was also an arc gifted to me from the publisher. So I have book 1. I have a LitJoy exclusive edition of book 1. And I remember thinking, like, it was okay, right? But I wasn't gonna go out of my way to buy book 2. And LitJoy, I would have bought the LitJoy one, just a matching set. LitJoy never followed it up. Well, the publisher reached out to me. It was on the list of books, like, for your interest. I requested. I'm like, great. I can read this book. I don't have to pay for it. It's okay. I'm glad I didn't pay for it, because I feel like there was just nothing done. It was boring. It was boring, and it felt long. It not only was a long book, but it felt long. And that's the thing that I get upset about the most. I mean, I have read, like, Queen of Air and Darkness. That's a 900-page book. Right, by Cassandra Clare. I blew through that book. It did not feel long. I look back and I'm like, damn, you're long, but you didn't feel long. This one's like 600 pages, and it felt like 900 pages. Halfway through, I ended up just getting the audiobook on Spotify. And I did the audiobook because it felt long. It was boring. There's hardly any, like, actual... It's more like Vikings with some fantasy in it. You know, you expect to see it. You think, oh, we're going to see some of those Norse gods in here and some of that Norse mythology play out. No. No. It was just a disappointment, honestly. It just felt long. Felt so long. And I just so badly wanted to like it, because there was a lot of potential with book 1. But I'm just like, I'm going to see if I can find my book 1 and just sell them as a set, honestly, on Pango. Because these are not books that I need to keep. Nor do I want to keep. Just taking up space, honestly. I followed that up with Fallen Gods by Rachel Van Dyken. This was another arc sent to me by Red Tower Books. I will start by saying it. I do feel like it is one of the better, well-written Red Tower books out there. However, again, ironically, this one had more Norse mythology than the previous book. But it's more like a urban fantasy. It's like a dark academic urban fantasy. Because you're following Rey. She's sent by her father, Odin, to go to this school. Now, I just have some questions that I don't think were fully answered. Like, why this frost giant? Why Eirik? Why him? I didn't understand that. Like, how do we know he's the key to finding Thor's hammer? Like, I didn't quite understand, like, who he was supposed to be in Norse mythology. I feel like that's never really brought on. He's a frost giant. Like, okay, cool. Which one? Clearly not Loki. It's just, I feel like there were some plot holes. I wanted more fantasy. I will say I did like the romance that developed between Rey and Eirik, because they're like enemies to reluctant allies to lovers. And I like the build of the tension between them. Like, they're both very attracted to each other right from the beginning, right? They used to be betrothed and he broke off the engagement because he didn't want her to be used as a pawn by her father. So I'm like, okay, that's respectable. I like that. Kind of broke her heart, though, because he wasn't honest to her about it. So she kind of hates his guts. Because she feels like she wasn't good enough, right? So I like the simmering tension between them. And I like that something happens from it. And I like the ending, how they choose each other over all the damn bastards who are doing like a whole power struggle for this damn hammer. I think I just wanted more fantasy. That's my thing. When I pick up a fantasy, if you're marketing a book as a fantasy, I expect more fantasy. Market it as an urban fantasy, and I will go in with those expectations. Market it as a dark academia, I will go in with those expectations. Marketing is key. It is key. And this is why sometimes I pick up books not knowing anything about them. Because if I don't have any expectations of the book, then I am less disappointed. Or thoroughly, entertained. Marketing is key. Market your books properly. Please, for the love of God. In any case, I expected more Norse mythology. Or at least they actually did do Norse mythology in the book. That was in the book. I expected more fantasy. That's it. I wanted more fantasy. And I didn't get a whole lot of that, unfortunately. Which is what I'm saying. If it had been marketed as a dark academia urban fantasy, I think I would have enjoyed it more. Because I would have gone in with those expectations. Not the expectations that I got. But I do think the writing is well done. I do think that there are some plot points that do need to be fleshed out a little bit more. Again, this was an arc, so I don't know if the final product is going to reflect that better. But I think the pacing was well done. There were some character motivations, like with Odin especially, that I didn't quite understand. I'm like, okay, why are your daughter's already doing what you want her to do. Why are you being aggressively violent. Like, it's unnecessary. It felt unnecessary at times, but that's just my opinion. Character motivations I didn't always understand, especially only in regards to Odin, to be honest. Alright, and last but not least, Cardcaptor Sakura Collector's Edition Volume 4. I love Cardcaptor Sakura. That's all I can say. I've been reading it, so now I've just been rewatching it. I got Crunchyroll just so I could watch Cardcaptor Sakura. Do you know how hard it is to find this series on DVD? It's fucking hard. Trust me. I've been looking for ages. Especially one that will play in my region. Because, you know, US. It's very annoying. So I got Crunchyroll. So now we're watching it with my kids and my husband. So, yeah. It's great. I love it. But I love reading it, too. I like that we're getting to see the characters just come alive on the page. Honestly. I love the characterization. I love the artwork. I think it's magical. I love my magical girls. What can I say? In any case, thank you for tuning into this. I'm sorry, I tried to be short. January wrap up. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.